We are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another scene set in Vampire the Requiem, a Requiem for London. Tonight, we set the scene with Marcus Irons, sworn of the Mysteries, member of the Ordo Dracul, neonate of the Clan of Ventru. Marcus has been tasked by a certain figure to assess the state of the Sworn of the Mysteries and discover whom his benefactor believes is manipulating it from the inside. In order to accomplish this goal, he has invited a higher ranking member of the Sworn of the Mysteries, whom Marcus's benefactor has already identified as safe, or at least reliable, to meet with him at the Soho Cellar, a winery, and the unofficial domain of a very large Ventru. Marcus, you spend quite a bit of money here. We'll say you spend $2 of cash, so you'll have $1 cash left over. You'll rent out a whole room for the night. And this place definitely charges quite a hefty sum. It's definitely worth it.
No expenses spared.
Beautiful chandeliers, large portrait in the background of people feasting around a table, very regal. Baroque seats and chairs. Lovely looking flowers inside, ornate looking vases. And you sit with your vessels that are just waiting to be fed from, not really understanding even what's going on, let alone why they're here.
As long as they behave themselves, Marcus will see that they get safely home.
Of course. It does not take long for Delphine to arrive. She is, as always, immensely punctual. You see her graying skin and long black hair, a red dress. She's very distinctive. Very formal, authoritative bearing about her. One that betrays no weakness. Her piercing eyes shift on over to your table.
He will politely incline his head and just slowly, deliberately gesture to a free seat, kept free for her. Probably vice versa to him, and he even would have made sure that the chair was at the very least of that both of them would be on eye level. He doesn't want to give her the feeling that he is trying to literally seat her lower, but at this point he's going for basically the same level.
Okay. Her with a pointed finger, she looks over them, taking a fair bit of time to choose. Then she seems to settle on one. She walks over to one of them after briefly glancing at you. Will sit by one. She simply takes their arm, pulls their sleeve back slightly, and bites into their wrist. You can see her savor the taste for a good while. It is not rushed. She takes a good 6 to 8 seconds, but she doesn't overindulge. And then the wound is simply licked clean. She will take a seat next to you after feeding, and she will simply say, "You have adequate tastes."
We try to please.
I would question my purpose here if you were not. So it is a good thing that you are. You wish to have a word away from prying eyes, insofar as we can be.
Correct.
What can I do for you, Mr. Irons? I haven't seen you about all that much within the college as of late.
Alas, some prior engagements were keeping me busy, but those have been taken care of. I have asked you here to see if I can't benefit of your knowledge, your wisdom. It goes without saying that you're a more senior member of our organization, and of course, have a better understanding of the current field, the bigger, more important chess pieces on the board. And I merely wish to mind your grey matter a little bit on the subject, as to be more effective in my function.
Make me a manipulation plus socialize roll.
On it.
Oh. Sorry, I almost missed the check. You got an exceptional success. All right.
5 successes.
You are as exceedingly polite as you are subtle, and Your flattery causes her to bear the faintest flicker of a smile. Oh, why, you have chosen very wisely. What is it in particular that you wish to know? To better understand your role. Just the general landscape or something more specific? Because of your exceptional success, your impression of her has been increased by 1. You now have an excellent.
Yes.
She now has an excellent impression of you.
Finally. But yes. Out of character, I think it probably would be smart to ask for a general overview, because she still might slip a name or a faction or two that might become more important afterwards. At least that's my logic. So I would say let's start with the basics. How is the chessboard set up?
Well, I shall forego the simplest of mentions. You already understand the 3 branches, but to speak of the mysteries, well, you have Arend van der Molen, who runs his own separate facility away from the greater college. He is something of a de facto emissary between us and the rest of the sects. It was quite surprising to me that he was not the one chosen to lead the negotiations with the Sanctified. He has a strong track record.
A mildly puzzling decision, I must say, but then again, it was some excellent field practice for me.
You can roll me. You can roll me with sympathy if you like.
On it. Four successes.
Okay, you sense a mild amount of Schadenfreude in her expression.
Out of character, Marcus will remember that. And just very internally, there'll be a small smile.
A shame, but I suppose he'd lost nothing. He has his worm's nest. I'm sure he's quite satisfied. Then, well, you have Mr. Lamb and Mr. Railing. Partners of a sort. They tend to do a lot of politicking between the various branches of the order. Quite menial, but effective. They are young and I believe are trying to exploit the triangular divide within our sect to help themselves. Although they have not made any such inappropriate gestures themselves. So I tolerate them. They are useful. It's acquiring internal information so long as one has a secondary source to verify what they say. They come across as quite self-interested, but then I suppose I can't blame them. London is not renowned for its upwards mobility.
Marcus
They have done
gently
nothing too
smiles
bad,
at that part.
They are largely harmless.
If
But
nothing else, beg your pardon.
They're quite clearly out for themselves. I believe they quite happily bend to anyone who would give them an iota of respect, something that does not lend itself well to cross-sect diplomacy. So I've been looking to keep them tied to their current profession within the order.
Good thing we have such vigilant eyes watching. What mischief they might be able to come up if a more laissez-faire hand was handling the situation.
Likely a series of minor scandals which would cause them to die in some embarrassing fashion a few years from now. Hence why I'm looking to prevent that scenario before it occurs. Ambition is healthy, but I believe they still need some time. They are not quite as refined as yourself yet. But
he gives her a half bow at that.
But they would not be sworn if they did not possess potential, and they very much do. So I would prefer it if they continued, as would we all.
Who knows? Maybe they just haven't quite found their ideal slot yet.
Then you have, well, Derek Williams. Much like myself, took over from poor Helmuth. I'm not sure if you heard about Helmuth.
To my chagrin, I have to say I haven't come across this name yet. But then again, I am still relatively young.
Like Van der Molen, he served as an emissary towards the other covenants, but where Molen specialized more in the politics of the First Estate, Helmuth was our contact within a second. However, he died under mysterious circumstances several months ago. The
Out
Axe
of
were looking
character,
into the matter.
does... Oh, sorry.
The Sworn of the Axe were ordered to look into the matter, but I do not believe they found much. They suspected it to have been a sanctified raid while we were still at war. It would not surprise me. The sanctified knew much of Helmuth due to their interactions with him. He would have been an easy target.
Yes.
Although he was in good standing with them. If the sanctified ever wished to make peace or spare any one of us, or even attempt to convert us, which is not all that uncommon, it would have been him. He wasn't a member of their laity, shall we say, but he was very respectful towards their worldviews, much more so than I.
A slight smile wrinkles in the corner of Marcus's mouth. Just giving slight sympathies to that notion.
Then again, the one who led the war against us was not exactly known for their mental stability.
Alas, no. Even I had to tangle with some of the sanctified on our territory.
Derek Williams replaced him. He was to look into diplomatic recourses of the Sanctified, although Sanctified approached us first, and I look to interject myself, as Williams I find to be unproven and not entirely trustworthy. He has been a member of the Swarm for some time, but not of particularly significant standing.
Any specific reason why he has brought up doubts in your mind, if I might be so bold?
I believe if I were to take a very geopolitical attitude to his appointment, that he was appointed to look into the diplomatic recourse of the Sanctified while the Axe drove them into a state where they would have no choice but to approach us. He would then be able to lead the negotiations, which would put him in a position of significant standing. Enough standing within the Sworn to perhaps rival my own.
Perish the thought.
I'm not sure how much you understand of my own stances within the Sworn, but I tend to take a objective view in regards to how the sect is ran.
My lady...
While I have...
oh, sorry.
while I
out
have
of character,
my
continue.
opinions, oh, that's fine. While I have my opinions of various members of the Mysteries, I base those stances on their track record and the evidence based before me. I do not pick sides between the various branches. the greater whole of the sect have always placed first. Or at least I would like to think. I believe the three branches serve to distribute power within the Ordo so as to ensure that no singular figure wields too much, even the Kogaion. So that should a figure such as the Kogaion or a senior member of one branch of the Sworn oversteps their boundaries, that another branch may step in to balance the scales, if nothing else.
A system I'm wholeheartedly supportive of. Secondly, I also want to thank you for your candor.
It is appreciated. I believe, while I am a firm believer in the meritocratic attitudes of the Ordo, I do find that it needs to be balanced via the three segregate branches of the Ordo. That one may balance out the other, similarly to the systems of government that many Western democracies propagate.
Having been, well, at least back when I was breathing a while back, having been a soldier for such a state construct, I'm reasonably well versed in what I was fighting for, and I recognize its merit. However, my experience in the military has also proven me that you can give your soldiers a certain amount of leeway. In certain instances, it's actually absolutely vital that you leave them to do that. But there are definitely also moments where you have to keep an eye on the odd troublemaker or see if you can't have them move to a different place on the board where maybe their natural strengths might come out. However, if there's one thing I understand, it is loyalty to an organization, a nation, or in this case, a covenant. The Order Dracul is, for all intents and purposes, the state I find myself in. I have allegiance to. And if I see that the actions of one, or even two, seriously threaten our stability, I of course will go along the chain of command, but I tend to have a hard time just to sit idly by if there is better things to do.
She sort of nods throughout your speech, as in like, yes, you know, paying you due attention.
She can do an inside check, and I'm more than happy to tell her tell you if Marcus is. If she would check, she would find that he actually means what he says. And out of character, he doesn't consider his sire a threat to the Order Dracul, so there you go.
She says, well, it is good to hear of your loyalty in uncertain nights such as these. Reaffirmance of such bonds are always welcome. It is perhaps the one thing I believe we could learn from the Invictus. They know the power and value of a spoken word. I'm very curious about functions of their oaths, I have heard rumor of more than just enforcement, rendering them power.
Rumors of contracts that bind their signers as if by the whim of some very old fey creature, almost like something out of a storybook.
Supposedly, although while they deal in many oaths and contracts, I have never seen such a display produce any outcome of the sort. Though it has long since been rumoured within this domain, and I suspect for as long as the Invictus have been in existence, perhaps it wouldn't surprise me. The Crone and the Sanctified have their sorceries, and we have ours. Surely the Invictus have some sort of niche. They have maintained power over so much of the world for so long. There must be some secret to their success. But yes. That is the situation as it stands.
Out of character, did Marcus's sire ask after any specific kindred? As in, hey, if you get a chance, ask her about X.
No. Roll me intelligence investigation.
I'll even spend a willpower on that one.
Only the one when you spend the willpower. I find that it's the last dice though. You would have failed if it actually wasn't for the willpower, so I guess it paid off.
Better one than none. Or a critical fail.
So of all the people that Delphine has discussed, sorry about that. All the people that have been spoken of, Rayleigh and Lamb, they're young. Delphine speaks of them as if they're not very relevant. Their strings are likely being pulled by somebody. In fact, Delphine's more or less told you that she's been guiding them down a very specific path to keep them in line and to prevent them from doing any undue damage due to their ambition. But they're likely not the figure you're looking for just because they're not powerful enough, they're not significant enough, they're not influential enough. Then you consider the others. You consider Merlin. Paquette's issue with him seems to be more personal. But the situation seems fairly independent, then that could also be a guy's. You're not entirely sure. He does have his own worm's nest, from what you've heard, but then again, so do you. So it's not necessarily an indicator of all that much.
Yeah.
Um,
Could Marcus do a politics roll?
you've already made an investigation roll, so
You know what? Oh,
Oh,
please.
I haven't finished giving you the results of your success.
Oh, sorry.
Then there is Williams. Now, Williams, was appointed. Was meant that was appointed to replace Helmuth, which means that somebody would have stepped in to appoint him. And you know that there is no real leadership figure of the Swarm of Mysteries outside of Delphine. Isn't really a leadership figure more than she is just well respected and the oldest.
She's basically the first amongst equals, so to speak,
Yes.
in this mystery.
She holds a lot of soft power, but not a lot of hard power. She can hardly order somebody's imprisonment or remove them from the Swan any more so than they can remove her. Power is somewhat limited, but it is still power. And if Williams had been successful in his bid, if he had led the negotiations for the Sanctified, he would have earned a lot of credibility. You know that Paquette, or Delphine, Paquette, blah blah blah, has alongside Hartwell and Julian have accrued some degree of credibility among the Ordo for the role they've played within the Pact. They've definitely been the talk of the sect, as it were. The only other figure, of course, is Lucia Thistle, Julian's sire, who Delphine has not mentioned at all.
Yeah, you know what? You know what? Out of character, that is something that would have slightly surprised him. Fascinating. Oh, he sort of gently strokes his beard and goes, interesting. I can't remember you mentioning Miss Thistle.
She handles a lot more of the mortal affairs than Kindred, and serves as my aide on such matters. Mortal affairs, I find, are much more easier to how to say,
Keep amenable?
that is a good way of putting it. Take a larger view on. Mortals, as you well know, she looks to your vessels, are far more manipulable than Kindred are, and far more predictable. Easier to guide on a larger scale. She has a firm stranglehold on several medical institutions, although I believe she's exchanged some of them recently to a Ganesh Bhate.
Yes, indeed. whose newly acquired property I had to rather ad hoc defend. It was quite the fight, but I don't want to bore you with the details. Just an old soldier rambling on.
Yes, I heard about that. If I recall, Dr. Barty awoke you.
Yes, he did. A rather agreeable chap, at the very least, in that situation. Still.
Roll me that manipulation subterfuge.
Okay, definitely spending a willpower.
Okay, keep track of how much willpower you have left.
Thankfully, it's still in the reasonable levels.
Oh dear.
Ooh.
That's...
well.
Well, she gets 3 successes. You do not come across as particularly convincing, but whether she suspects you or not, you can't tell.
Well, she's not holding a Kalashnikov to his head, so with all due respect, he doesn't feel the same urgency or threat of the situation than he would in a firefight.
So, do you continue? She just sort of politely smiles at you.
No, he'll just nod. Good. Unless there is anything else that comes to mind, it sounds as if we have covered all the bases for tonight.
As an out of character note, you probably want more personal information on your suspects. Of all the people that have been referenced, because you succeeded at your investigation check, William stands out as the most suspicious. He was directly appointed by a figure outside of the Swarm of the Mysteries. And Delphine deliberately went out of her way to block him because she clearly suspected him as well.
Okay, so out of character, may I slightly amend the statement? Okay, seems we've got the basics covered. We've got some of the things. Williams. Out of character, has my guy met him more than once?
Oh, I was muted, sorry. No, you have not met this figure before.
Okay. Can't recall ever having actually met this Mr. Williams. Would you indulge an old fellow in a little bit more information? He gives her a polite smile.
suppose that depends on what you're asking for.
How would you, out of character, I'm trying to think of the word, how would you assess this kindred?
He's always been quite muted. Never particularly... Yes, timid would be a good word for him. He's always avoided confrontation. It made him useful as an emissary. He wanted to diffuse conflict. His desire to participate in the peace process doesn't surprise me, although the way in which he has done so is unusually bold for him. He's always been very cagey, rarely shows up to Ordo seminars unless it was a particularly historic affair.
Oh, is he a bit of a history buff?
Not in particular, no. Just cagey, withdrawn. I rarely meet with him myself.
Interesting. Anyway, good to know. Out of character, any other names that desperately need asking? If not, I'm happy to wrap things up. Out of character.
You could ask about the Kogaion.
Excellent, excellent. And, well, last but not least, the king, if one were to go with my analogy. What can you tell me about our illustrious leader?
Of her, you already know all you need to know.
Okay, out of character, Marcus has the feeling that so far he's actually had a really, really good run getting the information, but has got the feeling that if he pushes further, it might get rather tedious, or she might start smelling that there is more than just him being curious. So he will go, excellent, good. I'm pretty convinced that should be all for tonight. Once again, you have my greatest appreciation. Now I've got a better idea of what I'm working with, what you're working with, and what we're dealing with.
Yes, I shall be expecting a report on your own contributions quite soon.
I will see what I can whip up.
Good. This chat was a refreshing change of pace. And I appreciate your choice of venue.
I'm glad you like it. And out of character, that is the truth.
And with that, I think we can end the scene there.
Yep.
Thank you. Players playing. Thank you, watchers watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye bye.